investigation similar or perhaps. So accidents can happen anywhere. Sometimes expected or not expected accidents, they happen, and when they happen, there's nothing we can do about it than to take, to take measure that's supposed to be taken. Now here we have accident prevention. How do we prevent accident or incident? When we talk about accident, we are talking about that which occur outside, and when we talk about incident, there's accident. Incidents are those things that happen in our homes, within our environment. If anything like that happen, we say it's an accident. So accident may have 10 or more events that can be caused. A detailed analysis of accident will normally reverse 3 causes level. That's the basic, indirect, and the direct. Talk about the basic, indirect, and the direct. At the lowest level, an accident results only when the person or object receive an amount of energy or hazardous material that cannot, be absorbed safely. The energy is hazardous matters, so we talk about more of accident, we talk about the basic, we talk about the indirect, and we talk about direct accident that we have, and you need to understand that accident investigation determine not only what, how, and why it happens. So the information gained from the investigation can prevent the occurrence of similar or perhaps more destructive accidents. So accident investigation are interested in each event as well as in the sequence of events that lead to the accident. So we want to know what happened, why are they accidents, are the incident basic, are they indirect, or are they direct? We are going to look at some of them. Then we'll look at the investigation procedure. The actual procedure used in a particular investigation depends on the nature and the result of accident. The agency having jurisdiction over the local determine the administrative procedures in general. Then responsible officially will appoint an individual to be in charge of the investigation. Investigation use most of the as I follow. Now look at it, how the investigation follow. Now define the scope of investigation. How do we want to go? Which length do we go on the scope of the investigation? How do we make it? Then we also look at. Then you also look at the select investigator. We look at who is to be there, preferable in writing. The presentation to be writing in writing. Then 3, we look at the present preliminary brief to the investigation team, including description of the accident with damage estimate, then normally operating procedure, maps, local and general. We also look at local of the accident, location of the accident site, list of witness, events that precede the accident. Now, visit the accident site to get update information. Now, by questioning people or interviewing people, you are able to, get to the people. Then 5, inspect the accident site. Inspect the accident site, secure the area. Do not disturb the scene unless a hazard exists. Then prepare the necessary sketches and photograph, label each carefully, and keep accurate record. Then interview. You now interview even victims and the witness. You have to invite the interview there. Some will say they were there when it happened. You describe how the accident happened. Then interview those who were present before the accident and those who arrived at the site shortly after the incident. Then keep accurate record of each interview. Yes, use a tape recorder if desirable and approved. Then you use a tape recorder. Then 7, determine what was not normal before the accident. You determine what was not normal, like the gas explosion in somewhere in Barua. That gas station is a big one and it's built inside the whole, a community where people stay. And so when the gas exploded, a whole one-story building collapsed. One-story building collapsed. Many houses burnt down and about 8 people died. So we need to also take precautions. So determine what was not normal before the accident. Then B, we're not talking about where the where the abnormality occurs, how did it occur, when did it occur. We now see when it was the first noted, how was it first noted, you need to know. Then we look at how it occurs. Maybe it occurs by a pollution, maybe it occurs by one problem or the other. Then we also look at analyzing the dates obtained in the step 7. Dates obtained in the step 7, repeat any of the prior steps if it's necessary. Then determine why the accident occurred. You can decide why the accident occurred. Possibly accident might occur, intentionally. Accident, it might occur, unknowingly too. Then likely subsequence of events are probably caused, direct, indirect, and basic. Are they direct cause? Are they indirect cause? Or they are just basic, things that they're primary things that just happen and when accident happen. Then to see, we now have alternative sequences. Okay, what are the alternative sequences? What led to the incident? There are some of the things that can be alternative sequences. Then 10, check each sequence against the data from step 7. You check the sequence, how it occurred, when it occurred, the things that prompted the occurrence. You need to check them. Then determine the most likely sequence of events and the most probable cause. Then you'll be able to determine the cause of the accident. Then conduct a post-investigation briefing. Just a little thing, summarize it maybe in 10 or 20 minutes, then you give a briefing. Then prepare a summary report, including the recommended action to prevent a reoccurrence. Describe the report according to application instructed. So we look at that, and we look at an investigation is not complete until all the data are analyzed and the final report is completed in practice. The investigation work, data analysis and report preparation proceeds simultaneously over much of the time spent on the investigation. Then we look at fact finding. Gather evidence from any source. You need to gather evidence, then from different sources, not only one sources, by witness, or you can go into questionnaire, just print out questions for the people so that they can know that you have done a very good work there. So inspect the accident site, we talked about that. Then interview. You need to interview the people. There must be a level of interview. In general, experienced personnel should interview. If possible, team assigned tasks should include individual with a legal background. Interview, the team should appoint a speaker for the group. There should be a speaker for the group after all the findings. The person should be the speaker. To get preliminary statements as soon as possible from all the witnesses. 3, view, the involve people in, take them to court or to sell, but just a witness to them. Now, 6, list. Now, let each witness speak freely and be courteous and considerate. You let the witness speak. Don't speak into their mouth. If you're asking a question, let it be a direct question that they can answer, because people may not answer when you are talking. They may just look at you. What question is he asking? Then ignore you. 8, use sketch and diagram to help the witness. Sketch and diagram, you can sketch, or a diagram, you can just put it on a plain sheet. Then 9, emphasize areas of direct observation, label hearing according. Then be sincere and do not argue with the witness. Don't argue. Don't do as if you were there when the incident happened. Let the people who were there. That though in some accidents, places, people who don't know anything, they only explain the scene. and don't put words into their mouth. 10, record the exact word used by the witness of the described each observation. Just the word, the exact word. Then what each question, carefully, and be sure the witness understand what they are asking and understand what they are saying too. Then we also say identify the qualification of each witness. That's the name, address, occupation, years of experience, maybe in that job or in the business or in driving. You'll be asked the year of experience. So then let's supply each witness with a copy of his or her statement, signed statement, and is desirable. After interviewing the witness or the witness, the team should analyze each witness statement. They may wish to interview one or more witnesses to confirm the clarity key points. Why there may be consistency in witness, also statement, an investigation should assemble the available testimony into a logical order, analyzing the information about which the data from which. So we need to understand all these attributes, on it. Then we look at problem solving and techniques. Accidents represent problems that must be solved, through investigation. Several formal procedures solve problems of any degree of complexity. The section considers this problem solving procedure. Number one, scientific method. We are talking about the scientific method. What's the scientific method? The scientific method forms the basis of nearly all problem solving techniques. It is used for conducting research. It is simple it involves the following sequence: making the observation, develop hypothesis, and testing the hypothesis. You develop the hypothesis, you do observation. It might be direct observation or indirect observation. Then develop hypothesis. Hypothesis questions, you develop it. Then testing the hypothesis. Even a simple research project may involve many observations. A research records all the observations immediately. A good investigation must do these same things. Where possible, the observation should involve quantitative measurement. Quantitative data are often important in developing observation. And test of the hypothesis, then measurement may require the use of many instruments in the field as well as in laboratories. Then, when making observation, the one or more hypotheses, they explain the observations. The person may explain only a few, all this is merely the preliminary ideas, even the project later. The investigation has a goal towards which to proceed. Then test the hypothesis. You need to test your hypothesis. Maybe one thing leads to another to test your hypothesis to explain all of the. So when you test the hypothesis, if you will accept all the witness what they have said, or you don't accept what they have said, hypothesis will always. But normally hypotheses always go sometimes negative because of how it is tested. Now, as with scientific research, the most difficult part of the investigation is the formulation of the what-why hypothesis. The following three principles to be simply simplified. Three steps. Number one, principle of agreement. An investigator uses the principle to find one factor that associates with each observation. Yes, principle of agreement. Yes, do I agree with what he said, or I don't agree with what he or she said? So that's the principle of agreement. Then two is the principles of differences. The principle is based on the idea that variations in observation are the only two difference in one or more factors. Maybe the two people that gave accounts, one gave another account, another account. So there's variation in all of that. Then three, the principle of concomitant variation. The principle of concomitant variation. The principle is the most important because it combines the ideas of both of the preceding principle. In using the principle, the investigation is interested in the factors that are common as well as those that are different in observation. So we'll talk about those who are different. And those who are real in the observation, in using the scientific method, the investigation must be, as change analysis emphasize change from the norm, discussion of the second, how it should define the two, establish the norms should have happened. Then 3, identify, look, decide the change, what when to what extent has the accident gone? Has it consumed every houses? Has it burnt down street? All this will be considered. 4, specify what was and what was not, attached. What was and was not attached. Though you are not there, so you cannot really say what was, but you can always say after what is after. Then identify the distinctive features of the change. What are the distinctive features of the change? Links the possible causes. Then 7, select the most likely causes. Then we look at sequence diagram. Now, Gantt charts are sequence diagram. Use them for scheduling, investigate the sequences. Such a chart is especially useful in depicting events that occur simultaneously. So draws hazardous analysis. When we talk about gross hazardous analysis, rough assessment of all the in performance, where we try to basic steps and identify from this event, determine the circumstances that can lead to the problem, to determine the circumstances that can lead to the problem. Then we look at report of investigation. Now, after